The day Earth changed forever started like any other day on the International Space Station. Captain Tom Miller was doing his regular check of the station's systems when the first message arrived. At first, he thought the strange symbols flashing across his main screen were a computer error. They weren't. "Houston, are you seeing this?" Tom asked, his voice steady despite his racing heart. The symbols kept changing, forming patterns he'd never seen before. "We're seeing it, Captain," Houston replied after a long pause. "It's being broadcast worldwide. Stand by." The symbols suddenly disappeared, replaced by perfectly clear English text. "Greetings, Earth. We are the Galactic Council. Your species has been monitored and deemed ready for contact. Please respond." Tom looked out the station's window at the vast emptiness of space, except it wasn't empty anymore. A massive ship had appeared, its surface gleaming like polished silver under the sun. It was at least 10 times the size of the space station. "This is Captain Tom Miller of the International Space Station," he said, following protocol for first contact that had been established decades ago, even though nobody really expected to use it. "On behalf of Earth, we welcome peaceful contact." The response was immediate. "Your linguistic patterns have been successfully analyzed. Our universal translation matrix is now fully calibrated to Earth languages. We request permission to send representatives to your station." Tom waited for instructions from Houston. After 20 minutes of frantic global discussion, he received clearance. "Permission granted," he said. A beam of light appeared from the alien ship, and 3 figures materialized in the station's main module. They were tall, with smooth blue-tinted skin and large eyes that reminded Tom of deep ocean creatures. Their movements were precise and calculated. "I am Primary Communicator White," the tallest alien said. Its voice was perfectly clear, though its mouth didn't move in sync with the words. "These are Secondary Communicators Blue and Green. We represent the Galactic Council." Tom noticed they had small devices attached to their throats. "The translation is impressive," he said, trying to keep things friendly. "How does it work?" "The Universal Translation Matrix is the pride of our civilization," Primary Communicator White explained. "It processes all known languages with perfect accuracy. For 10,000 years, it has enabled peaceful communication between all spacefaring species." "That's amazing," Tom said. "Would you like some coffee? It's a bit chilly in here." The aliens looked at each other in confusion. Their throat devices blinked rapidly. "We do not understand," Secondary Communicator Blue said. "Our sensors indicate the temperature is precisely 20 degrees Celsius, which is within human comfort range. Why do you say it is small frozen pieces?" Tom couldn't help but smile. "Sorry, chilly just means a bit cold. It's just a casual way of speaking." The aliens' devices blinked again. "Ah," Primary Communicator White said. "Your species uses imprecise temperature measurements in casual conversation. This has been noted and added to the translation matrix." Over the next few hours, Tom gave the aliens a tour of the station. He noticed they seemed confused by his casual remarks, but their translation devices eventually figured out most of what he was saying. They were particularly puzzled by his use of "pretty good" to describe the station's recycling system. "The system is either functioning correctly, or it is not," Secondary Communicator Green said. "What is the purpose of adding aesthetic quality to mechanical efficiency?" "It's just how we talk," Tom explained. "Not everything needs to be exact." As the aliens prepared to leave, Primary Communicator White made an announcement. "The Galactic Council invites Earth to send representatives to our headquarters. Your species shows interesting linguistic patterns that warrant further study." After they left, Tom looked at Earth through the station's window. "Well," he said to himself, "things are about to get interesting." He had no idea just how right he was, or how one simple human phrase would soon throw the entire galaxy into chaos. The aliens' perfect translation system was about to meet its match in humanity's love of creative expression, and nothing would ever be the same. 2 weeks after first contact, Earth's small delegation stood in front of the Galactic Council headquarters. The building looked like a giant crystal, reaching up into the purple alien sky. Lead diplomat James Walker adjusted his tie, trying to stay calm despite being the first human to visit another planet. "Remember," Dr. Bell whispered beside him, "keep it simple and clear." She was the team's language expert, chosen because she could speak 5 Earth languages. The third member of their team, Major Lee, kept his hand close to his sidearm, though they'd been assured it wouldn't be needed. A group of aliens approached them. Unlike the blue-skinned ones they'd met on the space station, these came in different colors: red, green, and silver. All of them wore the same translation devices on their throats. "Welcome to Central Processing," said the silver alien. "I am Head Coordinator Silver. You are the first humans to visit our world. Please follow correct protocols." James nodded and stepped forward. "Thank you for inviting us. We look forward to learning from each other." The aliens led them inside. The walls were covered in flowing symbols that changed constantly. James realized they were watching actual translations happening in real time. "This is our pride," Head Coordinator Silver explained. "The Universal Translation Matrix processes 5 million conversations every second. It has never made a mistake." They entered a large round room where hundreds of different alien species sat in rising circles, like a giant theater. Each alien had a translation device, and the air hummed with their synchronized operation. "Please address the council," a green alien said, gesturing to a platform in the center of the room. James walked to the platform, heart pounding. "Greetings, honored council members. On behalf of Earth, I thank you for this historic opportunity." The translation devices around the room blinked in unison, perfectly converting his words into hundreds of different languages. The aliens nodded in approval. "Your language patterns are unusually varied," Head Coordinator Silver noted. "Why do you not standardize your communication?" "Well," James said, "humans believe that variety makes language richer. We enjoy using different words to express the same thing." The aliens looked confused. Their devices blinked rapidly. "Inefficient," muttered a red alien nearby. "Communication should be precise." Throughout the day, James noticed how the aliens became uncomfortable whenever humans spoke casually. During lunch, Major Lee said the food was out of this world, and several aliens immediately checked their gravity systems. "Your species frequently states incorrect facts," Head Coordinator Silver observed. "The food was prepared in our facility, not beyond our atmosphere." "It's just an expression," Dr. Bell tried to explain. "Humans often use words to mean something different from their literal meaning." The aliens' devices blinked frantically at this. "Different from literal meaning," Head Coordinator Silver repeated slowly. "This does not compute. Words must mean what they mean." James watched the symbols on the walls flicker faster whenever they spoke casually. He began to suspect that the aliens' perfect system had a flaw. It couldn't handle the way humans naturally played with words. At the end of the day, the council gathered again. "We have analyzed your communication patterns," Head Coordinator Silver announced. "They are chaotic, but interesting. We will update our translation matrix to accommodate your inefficiencies." As they walked back to their quarters, Dr. Bell smiled. "Did you notice? Their perfect system struggles with our inefficient way of talking. I wonder what would happen if we really confused it." "Let's not find out," James said. "We don't want to cause any trouble." But trouble was exactly what was coming. The next day, during the most important meeting of their visit, James would accidentally say something that would break the aliens' perfect system and change the galaxy forever. None of them knew it yet, but humanity's gift for creative language was about to teach these advanced aliens an important lesson about the beauty of imperfection. The morning of the big council meeting started with strange weather. James Walker stood at the window of the alien building, watching purple drops fall from the orange sky. The sight made him think of Earth's rain. And that's where the trouble began. The Grand Council chamber was packed with aliens from 1,000 worlds. Their translation devices blinked steadily as different species discussed trade routes and space laws. James sat between Dr. Bell and Major Lee, trying to look interested in a debate about proper spaceship parking procedures. Now, Head Coordinator Silver announced, the human delegation will present their proposal for cultural exchange programs. James walked to the central platform. He had practiced his speech carefully, planning to use only the simplest words. But as he looked up at the crowds of aliens, the rain outside grew louder, pounding against the crystal walls. Before I begin, James said, I couldn't help but notice the weather. Back on Earth, when we have rain this heavy, we say it's raining cats and dogs. The effect was instant and dramatic. Every translation device in the room started blinking red. Head Coordinator Silver's eyes went wide. Error, error, processing failure, weather system malfunction, living creatures falling from atmosphere, feline and canine precipitation impossible. It's just a saying, James tried to explain, but it was too late. The translation matrix displays on the walls began showing nonsense symbols. Aliens all around the chamber started speaking in their native languages, but their translation devices only produced static and gibberish. Emergency protocol initiated, a computer voice announced. Universal translation matrix experiencing critical failure. Backup systems engaging. The backup systems lasted exactly 3 seconds before they also crashed. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Aliens were waving their arms, making sounds in hundreds of different languages. Some were climbing over their seats, others were pressing buttons on their devices frantically. Without the translation matrix, nobody could understand anyone else. What's happening? Major Lee asked, reaching for his weapon. Dr. Bell was grinning. The matrix can't handle the idiom. It's trying to make literal sense of cats and dogs falling from the sky, and it's created a paradox in the system. Head Coordinator Silver rushed to them, making urgent gestures and sounds that nobody could understand. Their perfect translation system, the pride of their civilization, had been broken by one simple human phrase. We should do something, James said, watching the panic spread. Dr. Bell stepped forward and drew a simple picture on her tablet, a rain cloud with arrows pointing down. She showed it to Head Coordinator Silver, then drew cats and dogs and made an X through them. Not real, she said slowly, pointing to her own smile. Just words. Fun words. The aliens stared at the drawing for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, they made a sound that might have been a laugh. They took the tablet and showed it to others, who showed it to more aliens. Slowly, the panic in the room began to calm. They're starting to understand, Dr. Bell said. Language doesn't always have to make perfect sense. Sometimes it's just fun. James watched as aliens all over the room began drawing their own pictures to communicate. Some were even trying to act things out with their hands and bodies. Without their perfect translation system, they were finding new ways to connect. Maybe we didn't break their system, Major Lee said. Maybe we fixed it. But this was just the beginning. As news of the translation matrix's failure spread across the galaxy, more chaos would follow. Spaceships were losing contact with each other. Trade routes were shutting down. The entire galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most powerful thing about language isn't its precision, but its ability to mean more than what the words say. And it all started with a simple Earth phrase about cats, dogs, and rain. Within hours of the translation system's failure, the problem spread across the galaxy like ripples in a pond. James, Dr. Bell, and Major Lee watched from a window in the council building as spaceships of all sizes filled the purple sky above. They're stuck here, Dr. Bell explained, pointing at the gathering ships. Without the translation matrix, none of them can ask for landing permission. On the streets below, aliens of different species tried desperately to communicate. Some drew pictures in the dirt, others used hand signals, and a few just pointed at things and made sounds. It would have been funny if it wasn't so serious. A large screen on a nearby building showed news from around the galaxy. Even without understanding the words, they could see the chaos. Space stations were packed with ships that couldn't leave. Trade routes were frozen. Food deliveries couldn't be made because no one could confirm the orders. Head Coordinator Silver appeared behind them, now carrying a tablet with simple drawings to communicate. They drew a picture of the galaxy with X marks everywhere. "The whole galaxy is shutting down," James said, understanding the drawing. "All because of one human phrase about rain." Major Lee pointed at a group of younger aliens below. Unlike the adults who were panicking, these young ones seemed to be having fun. They were playing a game, making dramatic gestures and drawings, laughing when they finally understood each other. "Look at that," Dr. Bell said. "They're learning to communicate without the matrix. They're actually talking to each other, not just through machines." A new alarm sounded through the building. Head Coordinator Silver's tablet showed a drawing of a ship crashing into a planet. Then a question mark. "They're worried about accidents," James realized. Without clear communication, space travel is dangerous. The human team was taken to an emergency meeting room. The walls were covered in hastily drawn pictures showing problems across the galaxy. Food shortages, stranded ships, medical emergencies where doctors couldn't understand their patients. "We need to fix this," James said, "but maybe not the way they think." Dr. Bell nodded. Their system didn't just translate words. It made everything literal, simple, and boring. That's not how real language works. Through pictures and gestures, they learned that some alien species were already adapting. The octopus-like creatures from a water world had started using color changes to communicate. Rock-like aliens were tapping messages in simple patterns. Young aliens everywhere were creating new hand signals that spread quickly from planet to planet. "They're making something new," Major Lee said. "Something better than just perfect translations." But not everyone was happy about this. Some older aliens kept trying to restart the Matrix, getting more frustrated each time it failed. They had depended on the perfect translation system for so long, they couldn't imagine life without it. Head Coordinator Silver showed them a new drawing. The council building with sound waves coming from it. Then a picture of Earth. "They want to broadcast something to the whole galaxy," Dr. Bell said. "And they want us to help." James looked at the chaos outside, then at the young aliens still playing their communication games. He thought about how humans had developed thousands of languages, each with its own beauty and special ways of describing the world. "Tell them we'll help," he said, "but not to fix the old system. We'll help them build something new." As night fell on the alien world, emergency lights blinked across the city. Ships still crowded the sky. Aliens still struggled to understand each other, and the galaxy was still in chaos. But something unexpected was happening. People were learning to truly communicate for the first time in thousands of years. And it all started because humans had a special way of talking about rain. On day 3 of what aliens were now calling the Great Communication Crisis, Dr. Bell stood in front of a large screen, teaching the most unusual class of her life. The room was filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes, and more watched through space video links from other planets. "Today," she said, while Head Coordinator Silver drew pictures to help explain, "we're going to learn about metaphors." The aliens looked confused. Even without working translation devices, their expressions of confusion seemed universal across species. Dr. Bell drew a simple heart on the screen. "When humans say, 'my heart is breaking,' we don't mean our actual heart is splitting apart. We're describing emotional pain using physical words." The room erupted in strange noises as aliens tried to understand this concept. One tall, green alien drew a picture of a broken machine and made a sad face, asking if this was the same thing. "Yes," Dr. Bell said excitedly. "You're getting it. We use familiar things to explain feelings or ideas." Meanwhile, James was working with another group, teaching them about jokes and wordplay. He drew a picture of a chicken crossing a road. "But why?" asked an alien through hand gestures and drawings. "What is the purpose of creating a story about poultry transportation?" "Sometimes," James explained through pictures, "the purpose is just to make people happy, to make them laugh." In another room, Major Lee was surprised to find himself teaching a class about human greetings. He showed how "what's up" didn't actually mean looking at the ceiling, and how "break a leg" was actually a way to wish someone good luck. The younger aliens learned fastest. They started making up their own metaphors, mixing their different alien cultures together. A floating gas cloud alien told a rock crystal alien they were as solid as stardust, and everyone agreed it was beautiful. By the afternoon, Head Coordinator Silver called an emergency meeting. Through a mixture of drawings, gestures, and newly learned metaphors, they explained the problem. Half the galaxy wanted to create a new translation system that could handle metaphors and jokes, while the other half wanted to go back to the old literal way. "Show them this," Dr. Bell said. She drew Earth on one side of a screen with its many languages and cultures. On the other side, she drew the galaxy, but made it look empty and boring with just one way of talking. The aliens studied the drawing. Then one of the younger ones stepped forward. It drew a picture of many stars, all shining differently, but making one beautiful sky. James smiled. They understand. Different ways of talking don't make things worse. They make life richer. Head Coordinator Silver nodded slowly, then made a decision. They drew a picture of the old translation matrix with an X through it, followed by a new design showing many connected circles instead of one big system. They want to build something new, Dr. Bell translated. Not one perfect system, but many systems that work together, like languages on Earth. The news spread quickly through pictures, hand signals, and the new metaphors aliens were creating. Ships began moving again as pilots learned simple, shared signals. Trade started flowing as aliens learned to double-check their understanding instead of relying only on machines. That evening, as the orange sun set on the alien world, James watched young aliens teaching older ones their new ways of talking. Some used colors, others used movements, and some combined their species' natural abilities in creative ways. "We didn't just break their translation matrix," Dr. Bell said. "We helped them break free from it." Major Lee pointed to where Head Coordinator Silver was actually laughing at a young alien's joke about flying rocks. Maybe sometimes you need to break something perfect to build something better. The galaxy was changing, one metaphor at a time. And it all started with a simple human phrase about cats and dogs falling from the sky. A week after the Great Translation crash, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. Where there had once been rows of silent aliens with blinking translation devices, now there was movement, color, and sound. Aliens were talking, gesturing, and even making jokes. James watched from his seat as Head Coordinator Silver presented the new translation system. Instead of one big machine trying to make everything perfect, they had built something new. The new translator looked like a simple wristband, glowing with soft colors. "Watch this," Dr. Bell whispered as Silver activated the device. "As bright as 1,000 suns," Silver said in clear but slightly mechanical English. The device glowed yellow. "This is what we call a metaphor, learned from our human friends." The chamber filled with happy sounds as aliens try out their new translators. Unlike the old system, this one didn't try to make everything literal. When a gas cloud alien said someone was as scattered as a nebula, the translator kept the poetic meaning instead of trying to fix it. "They're not just translating words anymore," Dr. Bell explained to Major Lee. "They're translating ideas, feelings, and creativity." Young aliens were the most excited. They had already created new expressions that mixed their different cultures. A water-world alien told a flying alien they were swimming through stars, and everyone understood the beauty of it. The old council members were harder to convince. Some still wanted their perfect, literal translations back. But then something unexpected happened. A very old alien, covered in crystalline scales, floated to the center of the chamber. This was First Speaker Crystal, the oldest member of the council. Everyone went quiet. Using the new translator, First Speaker Crystal said something that made all the aliens gasp. My heart shines like a dying star for the years we lost to perfect translation. It was the first time anyone had heard a council elder use a metaphor. In trying to make our words perfect, first speaker Crystal continued, we made our thoughts small. The humans have given us back the gift of true speech. One by one, other council members began to speak in new ways. A rock-like alien talked about feelings, deep as the core of a planet. A floating gas alien described happiness as a dance of molecules in a summer breeze. James turned to Dr. Bell. Did you teach them these metaphors? She shook her head, smiling. They're making their own now. That's the beauty of it. Once they understood they could play with language, they started creating. Head Coordinator Silver called for attention. Through the new translator, they announced that the Galactic Council would create a new department, the Office of Cultural Expression. Its job would be to help species share not just words, but stories, poems, and jokes. And Silver added, looking at the human delegation, we want Earth to help lead this department. You have shown us that perfect is not always better. The chamber filled with the sounds of hundreds of species showing approval in their own ways. Some flashed colors, others hummed, and some created beautiful patterns in the air. As the day ended, James stood at the same window where he had watched the rain that started everything. Major Lee joined him. Hard to believe it all started with cats and dogs, Major Lee said. Sometimes the best things start with something breaking, James replied. Below them, in the streets of the alien city, different species were talking, laughing, and sharing stories. Young aliens were teaching older ones new expressions, and older ones were sharing ancient poems they had almost forgotten. The galaxy was changing. Instead of one perfect way of talking, there were now thousands of beautiful ways to share ideas. And somewhere, on a distant planet, it was probably raining cats and dogs. 1 year after the day it rained cats and dogs in the Galactic Council, Earth's first permanent embassy opened on the alien capital world. James stood at the entrance, now wearing the silver uniform of Earth's new cultural exchange office. Above the door, words appeared in hundreds of alien languages, each saying the same thing. Welcome. Let's talk. Dr. Bell's classroom in the embassy had become the most popular place in the galaxy. Today, she was teaching a group of alien diplomats about Earth poetry. On her screen was Robert Frost's poem about 2 roads in a yellow wood. But roads cannot make decisions, a rock crystal alien said through its new translator. Then it paused and its crystals sparkled. Ah, like my people say, choice weighs heavy as a neutron star. It is about making hard choices. Major Lee, who now headed embassy security, smiled as he watched alien children playing in the embassy garden. They had invented a new game called Human Sayings, where they tried to create the funniest metaphors by mixing their different cultures together. Your head is as empty as a space whale stinging. One young alien called to another, and they all burst into their different types of laughter. The biggest change was in space travel. The new translation system had changed how species talk to each other during space flights. Instead of boring, technical language, ship captains now shared weather reports with style. Watch out for the meteor shower, a gas cloud pilot would say. It's dancing like 1,000 fireflies in a hurricane. Everyone understood, and space felt less empty with all the colorful language floating between the stars. Head Coordinator Silver, now the leader of the Cultural Exchange Department, invited James to their office. The walls were covered in artwork from different species, each trying to show how their words looked in pictures. We found something interesting, Silver said through their translator. When we studied Earth's languages, we discovered humans had been preparing for this moment for thousands of years. What do you mean? James asked. Silver showed him pictures of ancient Earth writing, Egyptian hieroglyphs that told stories in pictures, Chinese characters that looked like the things they described, cave paintings that showed stories without words. Humans never forgot that language could be beautiful, Silver said. We'd had to learn it again. In the council chamber, things had changed too. The strict, formal speeches were gone. Now representatives told stories, and used colorful language to make their points. Even the most serious trade agreements included metaphors and jokes. One day, as James was finishing work, a young alien rushed into his office. It was one of Dr. Bell's students, its crystal body glowing with excitement. "Teacher," it said through the translator, "I heard humans also have something called singing. Can you tell us about this?" And so began the next chapter in the galaxy's cultural revolution. Alien species discovered music, and soon the space between stars was filled with songs in 1,000 different languages. That evening, James, Dr. Bell, and Major Lee sat in the embassy garden, watching the orange sunset. Above them, ships from across the galaxy moved through the purple sky, their pilots sharing poetic traffic reports and musical flight paths. "Remember when one human phrase crashed their perfect system?" Major Lee asked. "And now look," Dr. Bell said, pointing to a group of alien children teaching each other Earth hand games. "They've learned that imperfect can be beautiful." James watched as the first stars appeared in the alien sky. Somewhere out there, trade ships were exchanging not just goods but stories. Alien children were inventing new words their parents never imagined. And all across the galaxy, beings of all kinds were discovering the joy of talking not just with their words, but with their hearts. The day it rained cats and dogs had changed the galaxy forever. And that was just the beginning of the story.